Well, the European Union, along with Bill Gates and George Soros, have a plan to block out the sun. Yes, lower the Earth's temperatures by launching chemicals into space that would block out the sun. What could possibly go wrong? Well, we'll get to their plan in a moment. But first, you might have picked up a newspaper lately that told you the Earth is boiling. That's the headline across multiple newspapers. It's so hot that if you bring a glass of water outside, it will boil in your hands, apparently. That's what boiling is, right? So clearly that'll happen. Here's the Daily Mail picking up on this boiling headline, the impact of global boiling. So you won't see global warming anymore. You'll just see global boiling. And they're talking about Greenland, specifically the ice sheet melting there during the hottest month ever recorded on Earth. Of course, we only recorded it for 150 years. I don't know if you, newsflash, the Earth is a lot older than we started recording shit. FYI, just in case any of those scientists are keeping track, it goes back millions of years, maybe even billions of years. How old's the Earth? Does anyone know? Let us know. It's certainly older than the 150 or so years that we've been tracking how hot the Earth is. Pictures of wildfires and newspapers also making headlines are all the fault, apparently, of global boiling. There's never been a wildfire in history before, the history of this planet, until global warming came along, apparently. Wildfires didn't exist. I don't know if you know that. There's never been a fire on Earth that caused a forest to catch on fire until global warming hit a few years ago. People in Italy are so hot that they're jumping into the Trevi Fountain just to cool off. You might have seen a number of these headlines. Oh my God, it's so hot that people are seeking refuge in the Trevi Fountain and other fountains across Italy because, you know, there's fountains all over Italy. Here's it's pandemonium. It's never been this hot. Here's Instagram. Women that normally pose for Instagram photos without props are being forced to hold fans in their hands. We are literally dying. Like, this is what's happening. People are dying, and they're being forced to hold fans in their hands. It's pandemonium. It's never been this hot before. The head of the United Nations, Gutierrez, says, forget global warming. It's now the era of global boiling.
Climate change is here. It is terrifying, and it is just the beginning. The era of global warming has ended. The era of global boiling has arrived.
Okay, so now just FYI, say goodbye. Say goodbye to global warming. It's now global boiling. That's the new marching orders. They're telling us that the Earth is so hot that it's boiling beneath our feet, and we need to act right now. It's an emergency. Didn't you see the king? He just rolled out his entire, new doomsday clock just a few days ago in England, right? It's so hot, we need to act right now. Enter Bill Gates to save us all, and George Soros, who funded a plan to block out the sun using aerosols sprayed from airplanes and injected using high-altitude balloons with these giant sprayers. Think chemtrails. You block out the sun. You drop the Earth's temperature just like a volcanic eruption. Saudi Arabia, of course, already doing this, using these sprayers for cloud seeding in order to try to get it to rain. But now think of it on a global scale.
Israel also does cloud seeding.
Yeah, a number of countries, right? Israel, Saudi Arabia. I mean, this is not, I'm sure the United States in parts are using it.
The United States did it in Vietnam in order to flood out enemy trails.
Right. Yeah. So, and multiple countries are using this already, and on a smaller scale, using cloud seeding projects to try to get it to rain. But now imagine using it to block out the sun with particulates that'll stay up there for months at a time.
Isn't that why we were told we can't use aerosol hairspray?
I think so, right? Wasn't that the whole point? It's causing a hole in the ozone layer. Well, totally different story. But
this would be like the opposite of that, though. This would be the opposite of a hole in the ozone. This would be making like a super ozone, basically, like blocking out the sun.
A double layer of ozone, exactly, because it's in the stratosphere. This is their whole plan. So this is exactly they want to do this now on a global scale. The EU, Bill Gates, George Soros, they want to do this. And this is exactly what the EU is planning to do. Watch this report from CBS on blocking out the sun. They're doing like a deep dive promotion of this video. They're doing like a deep dive promotion of this entire plan. Just look how they're sort of jolly about talking about it. Watch.
What exactly is solar geoengineering?
A set of proposed technologies to rapidly cool the Earth by reflecting sunlight back into space.
The idea is based on the cooling effect of volcanic eruptions. When Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines erupted in 1991, it spewed 20 million tons of sulfur dioxide into the sky. That reflected so much sunlight, global temperatures dropped by an entire degree the following year.
So one notion is that we could mimic those volcanic eruptions by sending specially equipped airplanes into the stratosphere to do exactly the same thing.
Okay, great. That's great. That's the
You know what I
idea.
think of when I hear these guys doing stuff like this?
Dr. Evil?
Oppenheimer. I don't know if you guys,
I haven't seen it yet. No, I haven't seen it yet.
Well, there's one part where they're talking about, like, this could ignite every atom in the universe. We're just not sure. It could. We're going to take that chance. But and the guy's like, wait, do you mean there's a chance it could destroy humanity? And they're like, well,
let's try it.
I guess.
Shouldn't everyone get a vote?
So you're telling me there's a chance. Would you ever marry me? Would you ever go out with me? Not for one.
One in a million.
Ah, so you're telling me there's a chance.
That's a Dumb and Dumber movie quote he just butchered.
Totally butchered it. Do you ever feel like yourself going down that trail of like quoting something? You do it all the time with idioms, so you know exactly. Like where you try to,
And
like
then you're
an
like,
apple
"That's not
away keeps the goat away. What is that? I know it, and you can't say it. Anyway, so CBS is in on this.
Too brave.
So CBS is in on it, doing a deep dive promotion of this whole idea of this volcanic eruption, not even questioning the devastation of this prolonged aerosols in the atmosphere due to volcanic eruptions. They're not journalists. They're parroting the pseudoscience behind this. And it's madness, actually. Someone who did do a deep dive on this are the authors, the co-authors, Nicholas and William Klingman, authors of the book The Year Without Summer, 1816 and the Volcano That Darkened the World and Changed History. Now, I read this book a few weeks ago because I wanted to understand more about how devastating it would be to block out the sun. Once I started hearing them talk more and more about this blocking out the sun, this book sort of fell in my lap, and it really speaks about the historical record of the summer of 1816. So here's a little history for you, and hopefully these people on CBS will pay attention to this, and maybe Bill Gates will pay attention to this. You see, the eruption of Mount Tambora in Indonesia in the year 1815 triggered a change in the global climate, a massive change. The heavier material fell to the ground, the ocean's surface. But the aerosol particles devastated crops around the world, caused massive famine, wiped out populations, led to the slaughtering of livestock because they had no food to feed the livestock. Snow and frost hitting farms and fields in July, months after this eruption. At the time, they couldn't figure out what the heck was causing it. They didn't know. They didn't even have telegraph lines at the time. Everyone from John Adams to Thomas Jefferson to Jane Austen wrote about it in their diaries and correspondence. Incredibly cold and abnormal summer of 1816, and tens of thousands of people died as a result of starvation due to the famine. In May of 1816 alone, the frost killed off most of the crops. Higher elevations like Massachusetts and New Hampshire and Vermont, as well as upstate New York, couldn't plant anything. On June 6th, snow fell in Albany, New York, and in Dennisville, Maine, and Cape May, New Jersey. Snow, frost in the middle of summer. 5 nights in a row in late June. All sorts of crops damaged. And according to the authors, the volcano only caused the global temperatures decrease by less than 1 degree Celsius. Less than 1 degree. Caused the global famine and population decline. Then we saw the exact same thing happen in the early 1900s. And again, after the explosion of the atomic bombs, caused similar atmospheric particles that blocked out the sun for months at a time. So let's watch this again. And watch him smiling here as they talk about replicating the effects of a volcano. Like, it's going to be fun.
What exactly is solar geoengineering?
A set of proposed technologies to rapidly cool the Earth by reflecting sunlight back into space.
The idea is based on the cooling effect of volcanic eruptions. When Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines erupted in 1991, it spewed 20 million tons of sulfur dioxide into the sky. That reflected so much sunlight, global temperatures dropped by an entire degree the following year.
So one notion is that we could mimic those volcanic eruptions by sending specially equipped airplanes into the stratosphere to do exactly the same thing.
Oh, we could mimic those volcanic eruptions. Like, this will be fun.
Can you think of any reasons we shouldn't do that? Is maybe the follow-up question that the journalist doesn't ask.
Hey, what if that journalist said, hey, I just read this book on the summer of 1816. I just watched Redacted and I saw that they were talking about it. And it turns out there was widespread death and famine, caused global population decline, just absolute destruction of crops, and set economies into total ruin. Hey, what about that? Well, I haven't seen that book. I don't know that research. Well, maybe you should look into it. But what about the boiling argument that's being floated around by the United Nations Secretary General and newspapers around the world? Is that true? Are we boiling right now? Is Greenland melting? Turns out it's based on out-of-date old data. The Earth is not boiling. In fact, it comes from a computer model based on decades-old data. These so-called scientists refuse to use the new data that was published in 2020. Instead, they keep using the old out-of-date data from 2010, 13 years ago. If they did use the new data, they would see that the Earth's temperature has dropped slightly, and Greenland's melting of ice actually went in the reverse. There's more ice in Greenland now, and they gained ice there. But don't let the facts get in the way. As long as women in Rome are stripping down and jumping in fountains in the middle of August, newspapers will continue to tell us that the Earth is boiling.
I mean, what are a fountain for? You know?
I mean, if I'm going to go to a fountain, that's what I would want to see.
Sure.
I don't really care about the Gothic stone carvings.
Okay.
I'd like to see it. I'd like to see that. That'd be better. I'd be more happy with. I saw a dog jump into a fountain, and they were trying to get a dog out of the fountain in Italy, and it was running around in circles, and people couldn't get it out. That's funny.
Sure.
I enjoyed that. Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.